Hey, true believers. Chris Matt coming at you with Batman 102. And Tynion is continuing to kick butt. But with that said, I just got the news because I know I'm a little slow moving through the Batman comics, but I'd rather take my time and enjoy them. But I see that he's eventually going to be leaving the book, which causes a lot of anxiety because then you're just like, oh, who are they going to put on the book? Because if you think about it, for the last few years, we've had Scott Snyder. We've had Brian Hitch that did the Batman and the Outsiders. We had Peter J. Tomasi on Detective Comics, and they took him off, which is... And now Tynion's leaving. You know, we've just gotten spoiled on such good Batman writers over the last few years. That's not including one that I'm not going to get into. If you guys have seen my past reviews, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm hoping that whoever they decide to announce for Batman is really going to take up what Tynion has been doing and do something good. And I just hope not flub it again, because the Batman until Tynion was really, really boring. But anyway, last issue we got treated to Batman fighting Grifter, which I was hoping this was going to follow up with that because the book essentially ended with him looking at Cole and saying, send your boss a message. And Grifter at this point is hired by Lucius to kind of be a bodyguard. He's like, my boss is in there. You're capable of sending your own message. And Batman, without losing a beat, just says, tell him I know about Halo. And even though it's changing, this is still my city. And he just leaves because Grifter knows what Batman's talking about. And I was hoping to see some more Wildcats, or I was hoping that maybe Jim Lee or somebody would announce a new Wildcats comic. I mean, hell, if Jim Lee doesn't want to do it, and Todd McFarlane doesn't want to work for the Big Two anymore, I understand. They could have got somebody like Warren Ellis, you know, to do Wildcats. And I would love to see a new Wildcats comic book. Anyway, we don't get that in this book, sadly, but it's still entertaining. We get kind of this dialogue talking about how Gotham is this dirty, grimy, nasty city. And then you're just kind of like, wait a minute, because you don't get the reveal yet. You're getting looks of Gotham while this person's talking, and he says, if I had billions of dollars at my disposal, I'd pay each of you to move somewhere nice and burn it all to the ground so they could start over. That's what he should have done if he really cared about you. So this issue, the first appearance of this character called Ghostmaker was Batman 100. That was his first appearance. We got a little peek at him, but this issue really goes in and explains his backstory and kind of how he ties into Batman. Because you're thinking, wait a minute, has he know that Batman has billions of dollars? And you're like, what the heck? And so he's pressing this police officer. He's like, my ghost net has already entangled its web deep into your computer systems. I've mapped key criminal patterns of the city, and I'm going to solve each of them for you. And so he's pressing this cop about Clown Hunter because this guy doesn't like that this young boy, is going around killing people without any type of remorse, etc., so forth, which, not saying a lot for this dude at the moment. And he goes, I'm not a dirty cop. You can't threaten me like this. That's not how you bats work. Do I look like a bat to you? I'm the Ghostmaker. I'm better than Batman. And I'm here to prove it. And proving he does, because Barbara thinks that Batman in the next few panels is stepping into a trap, because these are called the Grinners. They do a really nice job of explaining how the Grinners are usually pretty docile when the Joker is gone, but when he comes back to Gotham and get ready to do some big crime, they start getting real active. But Batman needs to keep an eye on them because, again, he's working lo-fi. He lost essentially all his money thanks to everything that happened in the events of the Joker War. And so he's doesn't have the cave, etc., so forth. And I like that because he's essentially moved into a brownstone in the heart of Gotham City. So this kind of reminds me of what Denny O'Neil did back in the day when Robin left for college. Bruce locked up the mansion, moved into an apartment in the city. And they kind of did that with Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin too. So it's not a new idea, but the fact that Batman has to survive without being able to have his suits repaired, etc., so forth, that's what's making it interesting, because now he doesn't have Alfred, he doesn't have his funds. So what is Batman going to do? And then we get the flashback in Ireland. And this character flying through the window. At first I thought it was Captain Boomerang. I can't remember his real name. Harker something or other. But we see that this is when Bruce was on his walkabout learning skills. He goes, "I traveled a long way to find you. I was told that there was nobody on the planet who could wield a knife like you. Teach me." And the guy's like, "What the hell you think you're doing?" "I needed to get your attention. You wouldn't listen to me in the bar." But before Bruce can even get this guy to train him, we see a silhouette. And this character, this Irishman's name is Tommy. He goes, "He thinks he's better than you, Tommy. He thinks he's better than all of us. You can't take it personally, of course. It's in his nature. It's how he was raised. No. He's a spoiled brat. A rich American who cries himself to sleep at night thinking of his dead parents." And so this guy, the Ghost Makers, who we find out who this is, spoiler alert, sorry, as Bruce was going through his walkabout, this guy was kind of on Bruce's tail, learning from the same masters. And each way is just like a hindrance to Bruce. And what I like about going into his walkabouts is because from what I know in my knowledge of reading Batman, there's not really been a book per se that shows his travels through the years, just glimpses here and there. So it's ambiguous enough that you can do stuff like this and bring in new characters. And that's what I've really, really appreciated about Tynion's run, is it needed some fresh blood. So we got Punchline, a character that shouldn't have worked, and everybody loves her. She's a psychotic but very smart woman, just like Harley. So they're kind of yin and yang. So I'd like to see more of that in the future. We got Clown Killer, which I think's an interesting take, because this guy is basically running his neighborhood. And if you remember from what was that book that we went over? We went over a book. Oh, it was the Joker Warzone. And all the people in the barrow where this kid lived is cheering him on as he beats the crap out of one of Joker's clowns. And so just getting these different perspectives and fresh blood in the book really helps. And then just kind of switching things up with Bruce, not making him the rich Batman that Scott Snyder kind of did. It's a different take. I enjoyed Snyder's run, but kind of making Bruce back to basics really helps. Now, one thing that does kind of kill me is I really got, what's their names? William March and, oh, I'm drawing the blank on the other artist. I see his name, but I can't focus it. But you guys know who I'm talking about. The last two artists that were working on Batman during the Joker War, absolutely gorgeous. Now, this artwork here, it's not bad. It's dynamic. But when you get a taste of a certain artist, you want more of it. Speaking of which, before we get into the whole Harley bit, let's talk about who made this book. And again, this is one of those obnoxious things where it's at the end of the book. This is Ghost Stories Part 1. This is James Tynion IV writing. Carlo Paguilin penciling, Danny Meeking inks, and Carlos Deanda doing the pages 13 through 16. David Barron colors, Clayton Cow's letter. Jorge Jimenez, that was the name. I'm glad I flipped it back, but yeah. I wish him or William March would stay on the book, because I love the consistency, like how Chris Claremont through the years, yeah, he'd swap artists. Like, he started out with Dave Cockrum, then he moved to Byrne, and then eventually kind of switched over with John Romita Jr., etc., so forth. But they were on it for like long runs, as where nowadays it just doesn't feel like artists or writers are on books as long as like Claremont, and I miss that. Especially if it's a good writer. If it's a bad writer, get them off. But if it's a good writer, just let them continue. But anyway, The artwork here is a little flat, but it's funny. It's Tynion again writing. And Harley wants to stay in little Santa Prisca. And this guy's like, you're wearing a costume. And she's like, I think the people that wear costumes are usually the most sane because we know how to protect ourselves, etc. So forth. And she goes, I'm also willing to double the rent. So you're going to double my rent? I mean, I got to scrounge it up first, but yeah, why not? If I say no, you're just going to break into this place and start living here until I give in, aren't you? I mean, yeah. Double rent. And you don't talk to the other tenants. They're good people. And I like how he has his finger out. This is such a Harley move. You got it, Charlie. No nonsense. Not here. She just takes his finger and shakes it. And then, what's your policy on hyenas? Good stuff. It's funny. It's a funny little interlude because he's building up subplots of stuff that's going to be happening in between. Now here is where the meat of this story takes place, is Orphan-Maker goes up against Clown Hunter. And what I like about Clown Hunter is even though he knows how to take out a clown, he seems sort of like his mental stability just seems really off because Orphan-Maker, the name's blah. It's like your search history is a real treat, I must say. Inspirational evil, even. As always, the next generation blazing bold new trails through taboo. I don't think I like you. See, I don't come from a backward place like Gotham. I come from the world out there. And out there we just don't throw our killers back into the water with the other fish. We gut them. And he just has this look of, yeah, I really don't like you. And then the book kind of blazes into a fight between Orphan-Maker and Batman, or Orphan Killer names. I know I was saying it there for a minute, and then my brain just decided it wanted to out the window. So here, it's kind of like, whoa, this was kind of a quick read, and there's a lot of buildup. Yes, but that's because we need to establish who this character is. Without that context, you'd just be like, okay, some dude. I don't care about some dude. But now we're getting some context to him, and seeing that he's essentially on par with Batman, kind of like how Jason Todd is because Batman trained him so daggum well. So this fight here is very much for the entire, for all the marbles in the bag, for lack of a better analogy. So yeah, the artwork is good. Like I said, I got spoiled on Jorge Jimenez and William March's work, but it's still beautiful. Writing's still consistent and gorgeous, and it's going to break my heart when Tynion leaves the book. It's just kind of like, damn. Because Batman's one of my favorite writers, and when you get a good writer on there, a book shines. When you get a bad writer on there, which we have seen, sales slump significantly. So anyway, with that said, if you guys have enjoyed this book, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little bat bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys can come to the channel. Love talking with you all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.